Hey everyone, and welcome to 1.21 Gigawatts. I am Peter, that is Connor, and we talk about movies on this show. And this episode is about a very brand new release. This is what happens when it goes straight to VOD. We are going to be talking about the next DC animated film, which is Batman Gotham by Gaslight, which is based on the book of the same name, which I have never read.
Very loosely.
Loosely. You have read it, then, I assume.
Yeah, I've read it. I can tell you, in that book, there is only one suspect as the killer, so clearly it's them, and that character isn't in this at all.
And interesting. I do know the book is very short. I know that because I've had it on my shelf for about 10 years and still not read it. But but I've not got around to reading it. So I watched this with fresh eyes. So this, as the title and the cover kind of imply, is Batman, but set in. I mean, does it give a year? Does it give a time
I don't
period?
think so. Just Victorian times.
Yeah, Gotham, but in that time period. So you got a Bruce Wayne who's Batman, but it's a very sort of almost steampunk looking Batman tech instead of what we're used to in the modern days. And then the other characters kind of fill out various roles throughout, and we'll talk about who they are. We'll start spoiler free, of course, because of course we do, and then we'll warn you somewhere in the middle before we go into spoilers. So it's basically Batman vs Jack the Ripper. That's the premise.
Honestly, Batman versus Jack the Ripper in Victorian times is pretty much all it's taken from the comic. Everything else about it is new.
Okay, all right. So we don't have to really talk about that then.
No, so it lives and dies on its own merits here.
Yeah, that's fair. So there's a murder of a prostitute. Right, so we got, so obviously it's not an all ages animated film. It actually, there's a few shits in here. There's some references to some sexual stuff. You don't see anything outright explicit, of course, but there are references to various things. Also, the killing is actually the first thing I'd say about it is that there's a couple of shots of just the knife stabbings going up and down, like it's like a classic slasher movie almost. Yeah. The knife coming up and down out of the frame, and that was kind of cool. But yeah, so that's the premise. I'll ask the question I always do. Connor, did you enjoy Gotham by Gaslight?
There's things I like. Overall, it's kind of just another one of these movies.
I thought it was okay. I mean, like a little bit more than you. I don't love it. It's kind of, honestly, my biggest problem with it is actually the animation.
Okay, I don't have a problem with that.
On two fronts. One being the actual look of the animation. Mainly, I feel like this story, this time period, this setting should have a lot more style to it, and it feels like a very typical, generic DC animated look.
Yeah, I think it's just the look that they have.
Yeah, but I think, unfortunately, I think that doesn't suit the setting. And then secondly, I think the actual motion in the animation, it ruins some moments here or there. There's a scene in particular where there's like chasing on rooftops. And it felt so slow because of how the animation was animated.
Okay.
Felt like we were running slow motion when they weren't supposed to be. And instead of feeling like it was actually in slow motion, it just looked like it was a really slow chase where they were just going at a gentle jog.
I never felt that problem.
But that was bugging me, and I felt that those kind of robbed it of atmosphere, which is, I feel like what this should have been really striving for is a strong gothic atmosphere where really feel the world.
Honestly, I feel the biggest problem that takes me out of the atmosphere is Jack the Ripper and the way he's treated.
Okay.
It's, I feel like Jack the Ripper should be in the shadows stalking, but he's just there for a lot of it.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that kind of links up to my atmosphere problem, where
it is.
They're not treating it like a proper horror film. There is those couple of nice moments with the knives and stuff,
especially early on, I feel.
Yeah. I mean, part of the fun of this is that they've put a lot of obviously back characters in various roles, and they're kind of who they're meant to be, but they're in different situations because of the time period. So you do have a James Gordon, you do have a Bullock, you have obviously Alfred, who's played by Anthony Stewart Head, who you may know from the hit television show Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
And I knew we'd be getting that one out of the way quickly on this episode.
Yeah, Giles is Alfred, which is kind of perfect in a lot of ways.
Do you know what? I think he's fantastic as Alfred, and I want to see that more.
Various Robins do actually take part in the plot in a way. It's very different to what you typically expect from Batman and how the Robins interact with them, but they are kind of there. They're referenced, and you've got that. So you got all these, and Leslie Thompson's there as well, which I thought was a nice touch.
Yes,
which I can appreciate.
And honestly, possibly my favorite part of the movie is Selena Kyle.
Selena Kyle, of course, is there. She is pretty good. She is voiced by Jennifer Carpenter, who I could not recognize at all, to be honest. She was Deborah, Dexter's sister on Dexter, which is where most people will know her from. Yeah. She did not sound like her at all. So there's some people who you just hear, like in this in particular, Tara Strong has a role. I noticed her immediately.
As soon as it starts, I was like, okay, that's Tara Strong.
Especially since I went, is that meant to be Harley? Because I actually said that because it was Tara Strong. I went, is that meant to be Harley? And it wasn't, but... Yeah. Don't get me wrong, it's not that she can't disguise her voice, because she does a lot of different voices, but this voice in particular just had that Harley twang to it.
Yeah, no, it did.
So I'm not faulting it too much for it, but it was it was there. And you've got the murder mystery. I think what I liked about the movie is it actually almost played like up until the killer and who the killer was. Obviously that changes things, but up until then it did actually kind of feel like just a typical Batman origin movie where the police don't trust him yet. By the end they probably will, and there's all these things that...
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
And the way that it introduces various things, the introduction to the signal, I kind of liked.
Yeah, the introduction to the Robins as well. It's different, but again it feels like, okay, no, this is an origin. Yeah,
so it kind of fits in that way. I was enjoying... I think, like, there's very few superheroes who I would even care about imagining what they'd be like in a different time period. Batman's an interesting one, and I do kind of like the idea of Batman versus just a straight-up serial killer. Like, that's an interesting idea.
Oh, it is.
Because he's a detective, so it plays...
It does.
Well enough.
Yeah.
Hugo Strange is in there as well. He's around. He's controlling Arkham Asylum, so you got all those things in place.
I like Hugo Strange in this time period. He's one of those people who just suits this time period.
Yeah, he does. So no, it kind of works, and even Selena kind of fits it because Selena's got that sort of femme fatale kind of mood going for her. So I typically like the characters actually. Most of the main characters because sometimes they feel really bland. Whereas in this, I feel like they're doing enough different little things.
They're
with
all
them.
pretty distinctive. To be fair to them,
I was kind of into it, and I like Selena's interaction with Bruce. I like that stuff. Ultimately, though, as much as I said my main complaints were the animation and stuff, I do kind of agree that ultimately it's not that remarkable. Like it all adds up to like a solid, decent okay, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
I don't regret watching it. And if you like Batman, I feel like you'll probably get this. It's 75 minutes. Knock yourself out. Like it's fine.
I feel like I like it slightly less after the ending.
Yeah,
I wasn't too big on the ending.
I think for me again that was like the animation that kind of ruined it for me, because I feel like they set up this thing that where the big final fight takes place. They set this up early on, and I kind of like that from like an action movie perspective. So okay, here's the big thing, the new thing in the town that we're going to talk about, and then by the end it's like, okay, we're going to use that in the big fight. Like I appreciated the concept of it more than the execution.
No, that's fair.
If that lines up.
I just obviously it's a, like we say, it's a murder mystery. Who is Jack the Ripper, and ultimately the answer I wasn't that big a fan of.
Joe, it's funny. I don't necessarily like the answer, but before it happened, I basically had already kind of figured out like what type of person it would be, just because that would be what would be surprising.
Yeah,
if that makes sense. Like,
I get that.
They're going to pick, A, B, or C because those are the ones that are going to be. Oh, that's shocking because of.
And I think maybe this is a symptom of just we've seen too many of these sorts of things that we can just see that coming at this point. But it was almost less interesting because of it.
I think it'd be more interesting if there was like weight behind it, like it had something to say. We'll talk about this more in spoilers when we're talking about who it is. But I feel like if it had actually something to say about, no, they're like this in this time period because of various things that are different, like this person in this time period would have went a vastly different way because of like how people were treated at the time, how things happened at the time. Instead, it just feels like, no, we're picking them and we're just going to make them a crazy killer.
It felt a bit more like you said, oh, this is the one that'll be surprising. That's it. It kind of feels like we'll go with them for shock value.
Yeah, that's basically it. There was no real weight or thought, I don't think, put into them being Jack the Ripper says something about the character in an interesting way. So, that's part of what Elseworlds can do. This is, it's an Elseworld. That's what Gotham by Gaslight is. It's taking a DC character and putting them into like another universe and saying, okay, let's do Batman here, or just like Superman Red Son, let's do Superman, but he landed in Russia instead. That's what that is. So I feel like instead of doing that, they wanted to take the setting, and obviously you said they took the Jack the Ripper, and then they just, that was shocking. What can we do that's different?
Yeah.
And it's funny because it does come up at the start saying based on the graphic novel by so and so, Mike Mignola, and whoever else was involved. I just remember him. But
there was someone else involved, but no one ever remembers them, unfortunately.
Because Mike Mignola's Mike Mignola.
yeah. It's a sad reality.
But I was like, oh, but it's almost. I almost feel like it's just like you could just credit them for the title. They came up with the title.
the title and the concept.
Yeah. But it's okay. Like, it's definitely not the worst of the DC animated movies by a long stretch.
Oh, definitely not.
I think Batman v's Robin, Batman and Son were both.
Yeah, as much as I'm saying, it's just another it's still enjoyable enough. Like, don't get me wrong, it's definitely not bad, and I'd definitely say, if you watch these movies, to go ahead, watch it. You're not gonna regret that.
To compare it to the recent ones, Teen Titans Judas Contract was better.
Yep.
But I do think this was better than Justice League Dark by a reasonable smidge.
It's pretty on par for me.
Yeah.
But
I don't know what reasonable smidge really means. Oh, and it's way better than Batman and Harley. That was...
Oh God. I deleted that from my brain.
I'd forgotten it until I just thought of it there. Like, see when I was saying, compare it to recent ones, I didn't think of Batman and Harley until I just literally said it out loud.
Yeah. Not as good as the Batman 66 one we got last year, though. That was the best of the year.
I cannot comment on that.
The Return of the Cape Crusaders 2.
I cannot comment on that. I did not see that because I don't care for Batman 60s, so I stayed far away.
Admittedly, that one wasn't quite as good as the first one, but still better than this.
Yeah. I think this sits at middle of the road. If you take all these DC animated movies going all the way back to Superman Doomsday, which is when they started, I feel this sits right somewhere in the middle, where it's got some good qualities. It's not as bad as some of the really bad ones, but it's not up there with, say, Dark Knight Returns and a couple of the really great ones.
I'd say it's maybe a little below average when you take in the whole line. But out of the more recent ones, since the Flashpoint one, we got that shift there. It's probably slightly above average from that point.
That's a weird way to put it. Because I think there's a lot that are really kind of average, and I think I like this more than a lot of the other average ones because it's just a bit different. Whereas when I see, I don't know, like some of the early Justice League ones, which weren't great, they weren't bad, but they were just kind of...
They were fine.
Yeah, but they weren't as good as like episodes of the Justice League animated series. Like they actually fell under par compared to that. And we're working our way through Young Justice right now. Like this was nothing compared to an episode of Young Justice.
No, it just wasn't.
No. And it doesn't have to be, but like I'm just for comparison.
It's noticeable when you're watching it at the same time, isn't it?
So what's funny, Sam Liu, who directed this, I'm sure directs episodes of that. So it's kind of If nothing else, these DC animated movies and TV shows have kind of proven that when it comes to animation, the director's not necessarily the same.
No, because he pours through a lot of these. Sam Liu goes through a lot of these movies. The next one, the Suicide Squad one we got coming up.
Yes.
Same. I'm sure that's him as well.
Yeah, I think writing and animation are clearly the other big things with animated stories which are clearly popping up. So then I'm hitting my.
I will say I like the music in this.
Yeah, it had this kind of like it almost sounded like the animated series theme at times, but it was like in this new.
Yeah.
Like style, like it was sort of fitting the times a little bit more. But I could hear almost a few notes of it every once in a while in the main theme.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think we'll give a spoiler warning so we can talk about details. But I think we've made our stance kind of clear. But yeah, so full spoilers. We're going to talk about who Jack the Ripper is because I feel it's the big thing you want to go to first.
Get it out of the way.
Because of course it is. So Jack the Ripper in this story, and obviously they have some red herrings. I actually kind of appreciate comparing Harvey Dent to Jekyll and Hyde.
I do as well, especially when they're doing it.
Yeah, time period wise, I think it's a nice reference. So that's pretty cool. So you got him, obviously Hugo Strange is around, and you got all these red herrings. But it turns out to be Gordon. And we see that his wife Barbara, not his daughter Barbara, is in on it. And like he's got this lair, and Batman finds out, and like he's like punishing the women of the world, all these prostitutes, they're all whores, and I'm going to kill them all. And that's his
Yeah, and wives are the worst whores of them all because they just live to be there.
The exact phrase he uses, they give it away for free, which begs the question: what is the appropriate amount he thinks is right?
Yeah.
Where are they not a whore? What was the price range that they're charging? Now, of course, I'm trying to read logic into this when he's just, a crazy sexist.
I assumed his logic with the wives thing was more like, because, in the time period, the wives aren't working. So more like, they're trading sex for, the home.
Okay, that's fair. I didn't give it that much thought. Because this speech where he says that they're on this big Ferris wheel and it's burning as they're fighting, and Gordon's a strong enough fighter to take on Batman, which of course is just a thing that because.
Again, it sort of works because, like I say, it's young Batman, it's early days. However, that's kind of one of my biggest problems with the movie is I really don't like the idea of not even just it being Gordon at this point, just Jack the Ripper being this. Okay, I'm gonna go and take him on head to head. I like it, when he's in the shadows creeping around. If we're here, it's just like okay, now we're gonna have a couple of fights.
Yeah, I like to see when he first killed Poison Ivy. That was a nice scene. I like when he came to Hugo Strange because he thinks it's Batman, but then he puts on the mask and he comes out. And I thought, okay, this is kind of tense. But then it becomes, of course, the fight with Batman afterwards. But I thought the first part with Hugo was good.
Yeah.
And then it became the chase, and it goes up to the blimp, and then it comes back down from the blimp. I kind of like the blimp itself. I thought Batman grappling onto the blimp and like swinging in, I thought was like.
Yeah, his steampunk grapple hook's cool.
Yeah, it was a very nice kind of like. Yeah, steampunk Batman. The idea that there's a blimp there, and he's like.
It's one of those strange things where it's a blimp, so yeah, steampunk. That sort of time period, it works. But I also associate blimps with Batman anyway because of the animated series.
That is true.
It does double up really nicely for me.
It was giving me some. I was thinking of Basil the Great Mouse Detective almost at that point because there was I'm sure there's a hot air balloon in that, I think, but it was giving me some of those vibes. But like I said, it was here where we had the chase top on the roofs, and I thought it looks a little bit shitty because it looks kind of slower than it should feel. There's no energy to it. Where I'm trying to think of. Last year we watched Ghost in the Shell, and the action in that was very fluid, and it felt like it had momentum and stuff. Whereas here I felt like anytime anyone moved, there was no momentum, and it was kind of ruining any of the kind of stuff. So they set up at the start, though, that this World's Fair start, and this is where the Ferris wheel is, and they make a point of the spotlight. Like, we got this fancy spotlight, it'll shine into the sky. I'm like, okay, right, so this is going to be the bat signal. That's going to be the
bat signal, yeah.
Like, it's so obvious, right?
They're not hiding it, though, so it's fine.
But I do actually like how it becomes the signal. I like that Selina's like captured by Gordon, and she's being drugged, so she can't fight. Because she's very capable. She has her weapon. She like fights back, but she's being drugged, so she's kind of struggling. And she actually smears her blood on the thing in the shape of a bat.
I love how rough it is as well. Because it's so easy when, especially in an animated thing like this, for it to be really neat and be like, oh, that's clearly a bat. Yeah. Whereas it's kind of like, okay, I guess that's a bat.
It's the same thing I like about in Batman Begins when he uses Falcone. And it's just a coat, and it makes the wings, but it's not like an exact bat, but it's like you get it.
Okay, you get it. You know what it's trying to be, and it's the same here. Batman looks up at that and goes, "Pretty sure that's a bat. That's for me."
Yeah, that's. It was nice because she was calling for help, and it was like a natural way to get it in there. I thought, but then the fight happens. It's whatever. I think Selina's relationship to Batman and her also investigating the crimes because she cares about the girls was interesting because it ties into some of her other origins, year one where she's a prostitute, and it kind of ties into that, and it harkens to that. It harkens to just her being this protector and anti-hero as well. So she's not actually got a cat outfit by any means, but she's
got the whip, and that's about it.
She has the whip. She has a history with cats because she mentions the lions, I think.
Yeah,
that she grew up with and grew up around, and that's kind of it. But yeah, so there was things in there I liked. Some things that were just kind of like, yeah, it was because the whole Gordon reveal. It was like, I don't necessarily like it, but I'd already kind of accepted that that's who it was probably going to be. Like earlier on, it was when he had the dream where he thought Barbara was in trouble, and I think that's a misdirect. I think he's the killer. Yeah,
and it's one of those things where it's so clearly there to be a misdirect that I dislike it because I don't quite, with this man, especially once we get the reveal and he's talking through his motivations, that Dream doesn't really play for me.
Yeah, I think my biggest thing, my biggest problem with it though, is when we get to the final fight, he's not dressed as Jack the Ripper anymore. He's just Gordon fighting Batman, and it's just kind of like, no, give him the outfit, make him creepy, like have him like have them both use the shadows, have them both try to out stealth each other,
Yeah, exactly.
to do something like that.
That's why, in theory, Jack the Ripper is a great idea for doing this with Batman. It's like, oh no, they're too mysterious. And identities unknown. Stick to the shadows. Like they're so similar that they work as against each other.
Yeah, and Jack the Ripper never being caught. It's like the ultimate. Yeah, Batman can catch him though. If we had Batman, he'd get him.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's reasons to hate that
feels
up.
a little easy here.
It does. It just turns into a generic fight on the Ferris wheel. And yeah, again, talking about the motion not quite working. When the Ferris wheel topples over, and like I've got the 5.1 mix, and it's rumbling as it's crash landing on the ground, and I just kind of feel like it almost felt out of sync because I just didn't buy the momentum.
Okay.
So when it landed and then my subwoofer went, I'm like, yeah, okay, sure. Sure, I'll take your word for it, sub. But I'm not believing it.
I'm sure you're right, but okay.
Yeah,
I get what you're saying.
Yeah, I like that. Obviously, the Robins, the three orphans, Dick, Jason, and little Timmy.
I love that you can tell it like it's Tim straight away because I can't remember what he's holding. It's a stick, but it's clearly meant to be his staff.
Yeah. And obviously, Jason's got the red hair, and Dick's the oldest and the kind of leader.
Yeah,
of the three.
I laughed. Jason has a bit. It's like a tire iron. But it looked very crowbarish.
That's how he gets killed. Yes, very good.
Yeah.
No, that was cool. And at the end, of course, he seems to Batman seems to kind of be like, okay, well, we'll build a future then. This is old. We will build something new. So he's got a bit of a Batman message. But going back to what I was saying about how the Gordon thing would have been cool if they'd actually had something to say about the character. Like if they were actually going for something like, oh, in this time period, like he would have been driven insane because the rest of the world wouldn't have been there to like facilitate his goals and his want to like protect people and stuff. Like if they had something to say about that, or like have him make a dramatic point about how this character could be different if he had these different variables in his life or something, but they don't. It's just shock value. He's the killer.
It's just it's the most obvious thing as to Jack the Ripper. It's the classic, oh, this is probably why Jack the Ripper did it anyway. They just give him that motivation rather than doing something for Gordon specifically.
Which it'd be fine if that was the motivation, if they could somehow tie it to mean something for him.
Yeah.
But they don't. It's just, no, he's crazy and he hates women. So he's killing people. That's it. And that's basically all that amounts to. It's kind of a shame. But it's okay. I don't think it's...
It is. I think it's at its best when it's, when it's silence and using the shadows. Yeah, when Batman's been shot and he's going through the city trying to avoid the police. He's on the ground. Yeah,
that's when Selina comes to his rescue in the carriage.
That sequence I thought was really good.
Yeah, he's dodging all the torches and flashlights and
and that's it. We're sticking to the shadows. We're not having much dialogue. We're just kind of creeping around. That was when the movie was at its best for me.
Yeah, should have maybe stayed quieter a bit more often. That's.
And to be fair, it is quieter than the average one of these movies.
It is, yeah, and I think that's something that Batman stories in general should probably try and kind of stick to, especially in animated form.
I agree. Yeah.
Be quiet. Make it about the visuals, but
yeah.
Hey, so it's okay. Like I kind of, I give it a lukewarm recommendation if you like these animated movies, or if you like the idea of Batman and Jack the Ripper. But I wouldn't like jump over the moon for it. It's definitely not the worst of the bunch though. Unlike a few recent ones, it's not left me angry that I spent time on it.
Definitely not. It's okay. You don't need to rush to watch it, but if you're going to watch these movies, sure, you won't be annoyed.
Yeah.
Also, did Batman imply that Sherlock Holmes was his mentor?
Oh, he might have done, yeah.
Because he has his mentor taught if you remove the impossible, whatever remains.
I don't know if that's
Sherlock Holmes, right?
It is, but I don't know if that's implying that he's his mentor, or if it's just a wink because of the time period.
Yeah. I'm not sure.
I don't know. But that's Gotham by Gaslight. It's okay. That's how I'd sum it up. Although, of course, we do have to score the movie before we go. So, what would you rate Gotham by Gaslight out of 10?
I'll give it a 6. It's all right. It's above average, but yeah.
I'm tempted to push it to a 6.5, but I think I'll just agree with a 6.
Yeah.
So it's decent, decent to good.
It's a fair score. I mean,
Yeah.
a 6 upwards, I typically say, yeah, you can watch that. It's fine.
Yeah. There you go, 6 out of 10.
Yeah.
So yeah, so let us know what you think of it if you've watched it. If you let us know in the comments, like, subscribe, all that usual stuff. Get us on the Twitters at mailed_fuzz for channel updates. If you want to support the channel and keep the reviews flowing, head over to patreon.com/mailedfuzztv. There'll be a link in the description to that as well as some other things. But otherwise, that is us. So thank you once again. Keep watching movies, and we'll see you next time.